There is such a thing as a creative mess, but this is not one of them. Hello and welcome back. A bit of a different episode today. It's still knitting related, but it's a bit more in terms of just getting my stuff together because I have a knitting space at the end of my sofa and it is an utter and complete mess. Okay, so to give you a starting point, this basket here was my last attempt to try and make a bit more sense of this. But I've got knitting journals, I've got my diary, I've got random knitting tools, I've got a yarn ball binder, there's a tin of buttons. Yes, it is a Danish biscuit tin, so it's obviously full of buttons. I've got my scrap yarn jar. The kitchen scales are hiding in here. I've got random knitting notions, beads. And then there's a shelf which has got things like knitting cables and other knitting stuff. And then there's the drawer of chaos. I also have random knitting bags, random project bags, random knit headband. And yeah, it's too much. I need to get all this sorted. And today seems as good a day to do it. So my plan is to take everything out of this unit and figure out what kind of storage systems I've got. I did pick up another tray yesterday, which I hope will be very useful. And just try and work out how to get this so I can use the space, but I've also got room to put other things in as and when. Now I've got a bucket for rubbish. I will make a recycling pile and I will make a donation pile if I find anything, and anything that doesn't belong in here, I will make a pile for that and move it where it should be. So I don't think that's too bad, but I have a horrible feeling. I've just remembered that there's probably yarn under the sofa as well. So we'll probably have to deal with that. Okay, so first things first, project bags. I'm just going to lob them over there. That's to go away. Project bag, project bag, project bag, project bag. That should have something in it, but there it is. Right, that goes in there. And then project bag. Right. Yarn that needs to be put away. That can go. I'm going to use this basket for things that need to go away in a different room. And let's see. I don't know what these are. Christmas cards. Why do I have Christmas cards in my drawer? From 2021. If you can hear scurrying noises in the background, it's the guinea pigs trying to be curious. Right, camera. Why do I have all this in here? I don't use it in here. Right, knitting needles. Oh god. So I have two of these grey baskets and the other one's currently on top. But in here I have got my Jameson and Smith swatches, so I know what colours I've got and which ones are available. Very, very handy to have because I do like my Jameson and Smith. And in here I have another empty poly bag. All the poly bags get recycled in this household because we use them for not just things like knitting and stuff, but things like Lego and everything. And we have a box of them that we store everything in. That is the receipt that needs to be shredded. Those go in a different room. That's a packet of tissues that doesn't belong in there. What are you? Stitch markers! Lots of them. Gosh, gosh, there is a lot in there. Right. And what's this? Shawl pins. Lots of shawl pins. Those can go out. Yarn things. More needles. So I've got two DPN cases. One's metal ones that are kind of like the old style pony ones, and these are all my wooden and metal and ones I actually like to use. So I keep those separate. Should that stay in here? Yeah, it probably should. That goes in there. And then my highly organised, and I've just put my finger in a needle. Ow, 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 ow. Why do I have those loose in there? Ow. It's all right, I'm not leaving. So I have all my interchangeable needles, and they live in there. I know it's for lipsticks, but it's quite handy. So I've got 3 to 3.75, 4, 4.5, 5.5, and 5s, 6s, 7s, 8s, and I think those are 9s. And I've got my stitch holders. Why have I put them in there? Interesting. So shawl pins I'm going to put with other stuff. Needles can stay in there. So I'm just going to make this basket all knitting tools. Those are knitting crochet hooks. Those go elsewhere because I don't really use straight needles. Oh God. Oh, there's so much fluff down here. Right, let me see. Is that a drawer? Right, that drawer is completely empty now, so that's good. So I'm going to put tools in here, so those can stay in there. Now, that's the background I use for photography. I have short circulars in here. So I keep all of my interchangeable cables in here. They should be somewhere else. So I'm going to put those in there. Silly sunglasses, because that's what every knitting unit needs. Right, this is the big box of knitting things and pom-poms. Right. That also needs a sort through. Ooh, mystery box underneath. Receipt can go in recycling or shredding. Right, those are the circular fixed circulars I do not use. I swear, after finishing the Quasar socks, I keep finding beads everywhere, and I keep putting them somewhere, and I can't remember where. There it is. I have a little dish of random things, including lots and lots of loose beads that I keep finding on the floor. Right, that's knitting tools. Those are stationery. Those are stationery. Why do I feel like I probably should have had a stationery box? Knitting tools. Sock Madness socks. Oh God. More stationery. That's kind of my current stuff, so put that there. Kitchen scales, that should be in the kitchen. Cross stitch on a hook with clips. Right, I don't know why that clip's there, but it's there. Right, they can go with embroidery. If you're wondering what this is, it's a temperature cross stitch for last year, and doing the highs and lows of each day. So I think I'm up to June. So now this is technically a yarn ball, but it's currently being used for everything. So I've got blocking pins, stamps. Stamps are always useful. I can go there. USB-C adapters. I'll put that with technology. Tipp-Ex that's dried up. Hair bobbles. Hair clips. A Lego brick separator, because of course. That. This is a really smart idea that I came up with last year when I went to the Woolly Good Gathering. Basically, rather than trying to match colours from photographs or anything, I had quite a few skeins in my stash that I'd like to use up, but I didn't know what they would go with. So I ended up making, I think it was about 5 or 6 little mini skeins, and I brought those with me, and they were incredibly useful when I was trying to match certain colours or textures. So yeah, if you're going to a yarn show and you're looking for specific things to go with stuff you already have, this is a really, really good way of doing it so you know what you want. And it's just on a little key ring. But yeah, so actually I need to have a look at my stash this year and see what I'm after. I think mostly what I'm after this year in terms of shows is sock yarn, because I am going through a lot of sock yarn at the moment with Sock Madness, but still, I'll need to tidy that up. I'm going to put that in there. This is my scraps jar, which was overflowing until I started the Mini Mania scarf again. But I quite like having the nice jars just as a way to store them. So I picked up this organiser from Sister Grona yesterday, and I'm hoping that I can use this for stationery bits and things like stitch markers and other small notions that I tend just to find pile up and they end up scattered all over the table, which means they end up scattered all over the floor or down the sofa and stuff. So I think this might be a lot more easy to organise, and I can have space for things that I use quite often. So yeah, so I'm going to try and see how this fits up top with one of the larger baskets, and then I'm going to go from there. Okay, so I've just popping those there, and they actually fit perfectly across, which I wasn't expecting. I was thinking I might have to rotate one of them, but that is a lot better. And it means I can still have my ball winder at this end, which I like because then it's really, really handy. So I think that might be how I go, and we shall see how everything fits in. Okay, so picking this up on the next day because I got tired. I had to put the tray in this orientation just because otherwise I couldn't fit the jars in. But in this tray, I figured out stationery, hair bubbles, because I use them so frequently, charger, random knit notions that I use quite regularly, a little bit of cable organisation, a bit more stationery, stitch markers, progress keepers, all that kind of thing. I've got my scrap jar. I've got my little jar here. I tend to use this just for like little bits of rubbish rather than having to put them somewhere else. Makes it a lot easier. And then I am using this box again, very much how it was. I've got my notebooks, stationery bits, needle gauges, all my little short needles, of which I've got far more than I thought I had, blocking pins, my sock knitting, my notions tin for when I'm on the go, post-its, all of my beads, and then I've got all of my fixed circulars and a lot of the DPNs I use quite regularly. So those are all out there, and I've got a bit of space at the back, just back here, and I'm going to put the pins from my Swift in there because I've got an upright one and it takes up less space if I take the pins out, so they can live up there, and that's all organised and I know where everything is. It's quite similar to what I had, but it's a bit tidier. I've got my yarn bowl, now not being a storage unit, and I've got my Swift back up. That's off the Swift. And then if we go down, so currently I have my box of socks from Sock Madness. These are all the ones I've knit so far. And at the back of that section, if I get it in picture, I've got my box with all my interchangeable cables in. I'm going to go and find the rest of them and put them in that box and perhaps sort the order. I've got some knitting notebooks, larger ones that I don't use as much, a small notions box, and my hard drive, tripod, and that's my box of other knitting bits and pieces. And then in here, I have unused project bags. I've got the rest of my stationery, things like my Jameson Smith staff, my tablet, all of my interchangeable needles, and then I've got all of my needle cases, things like stitch markers, crochet hooks, Tunisian crochet hooks, DPNs, and then I've got my other notebooks and some other bits and pieces there. These I do still need to go through, but that's a job that can be done another day when I'm feeling more up to it. And apart from that, I also have my box of embroidery floss, which I'm thinking can actually sit under here, and then that gets that off the floor as well. And I've got things like my embroidery pouches in there as well. So that's all good. Oops, put those away again rather than leave them on the floor, because this is what got me into that problem. That can just go back there. And then last but not least, I've rescued the other box from inside the drawer because I don't need it in there anymore. And these are all projects. This is a project to be started. These are all long-term whips that I need to restart this year. And then I've got my other basket, which if I find it, is, so what I thought was yarn under the sofa was actually my Mini Mania scarf. So that's got the bag of all the bits and stuff in it. And the needles. These are spare yarns from Sock Madness, all the ones that I finished with, but I've just kept them out because they might come in handy. And I don't know if I need the colours yet. So that's kind of where everything's at. And I'm quite pleased with that. It's a lot tidier. There's a lot less stuff in it. And I can actually find everything now. So, grand. And in terms of stuff that doesn't belong in that side unit, but was in that side unit, I have an entire bucket of stuff that I need to now find somewhere to put, which is less good. But at least I think I know where it's meant to go, but we'll figure that out. That's a problem for later, Kirsten. So that feels so much better getting everything sorted. I'm a lot happier now that unit's done. I find like this happens quite a lot with me as I hit a level of mess or chaos. So it's like, it's too much. I like a creative, messy environment sometimes, but there is a limit. And that unit was definitely reaching that point. So a lot happier with it. I feel comfortable moving forward, and I think all I've got to do now is just get on with a bit of knitting. Got some bonus socks from Sock Madness to finish, and that's next on my agenda. If you liked watching this video, why not give it a like? And if you want to see more with me, why not click the subscribe button? And I'll see you next time. Bye!